and you can make it whatever you want, which you can, then I suggest that you get into the practice of. Hi, my name's Steve, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about getting into a delightful state. I know that in the quote-unquote law of attraction and teachers that teach that, there's a big emphasis on gratitude, right? Appreciation. In my book, I actually mentioned something else that's I feel is a stronger vibration, a stronger pull to help you create what you want. And it's the state of being in a state of delight. It's more of a delightful being satisfied. It's like you're satisfied with your life. Sometimes it can be really difficult, especially when there's crazy things going on in your world. It can be really difficult to do that. So I'm not going to say this is easy to do, but I'm going to give you what I feel is like a really good way to do it so that you can get into this delightful state. And I'm going to give you an example. So last night, I was in kind of like a neutral state. I wasn't really super excited or super enthusiastic or joyous over anything, but I wasn't like depressed, angry, or upset either. I was just in a neutral state. And I know from experience that nothing comes into this world through this reality, which we call planet Earth, by being in a neutral state. The real magic of life comes when there's some sort of strong positive emotion attached to a picture or thought that you have that you want to create. So I'm sitting in bed last night and I was like, I make a practice of saying, what am I delighted with? And I sometimes kind of like scan through the day and I'm scanning, right? Things are coming in my mind, they're going out. Things are coming in. Everything that's coming in, going out is like neutral. I don't feel delighted with it. Even though 2 days ago I may have felt like really delighted with it, really satisfied with that thought. And then all of a sudden the thought of what I had for dinner, the burgers that my wife made, which these were leftovers from the night before, but they were just so good and so juicy, these burgers, that I just latched onto that thought of having this delicious, juicy burger and how satisfying it was to eat it. And so what happens, I'm going to explain to you what happens inside of me when I get these thoughts, is that what happens inside of me is I want you to think of a balloon inside of you. And let's say the balloon's like this size, okay? And it's like neutral, neutral, neutral. And then all of a sudden the delightful, satisfying feeling of eating that burger, and the balloon like doubles instantly. Like I feel delighted. And I was like, ooh, that's a good one. That's a good thought to have. And so I'm like feeling very delighted with eating and the thought of having this burger. So as I'm feeling that delight, and this balloon inside of me, this state of feeling delighted is starting to expand inside of me, I'm bringing other new thoughts, and I'm like, what else am I delightful? What else am I delightful for? What else? And things are coming in and out, and like I said, neutral, 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 some negative, some like positive, but not like satisfying, not a feeling of satisfaction. And the next thing that comes in is, well, my book's published, right? And for me, that was like, to have it physically in my hand, I was like, oh, that's delightful. It felt really delightful. So again, that balloon, it started like this, right? And then all of a sudden I started to feel satisfied thinking about that burger and how juicy it was. And then it's like, it goes like that. And then I think about my book, and then it goes like this. And so this is the thing, is that, so I've started to really get into this, right? And then in the morning I did the same thing. What am I delightful for? What am I satisfied with? And just honestly, just those two things, just focusing on those two things. And that balloon like goes way outside my body, and eventually all I feel is I feel a wave of delight. Now here's what's really interesting, is that you don't have to feel delightful for the things that you want to show up in your life. You just need to feel delightful, which is what I talk about in the book. You got to feel generally delightful, because then what happens is when you're in this state where you feel this wave of delight, and then you focus on the things you want, all of a sudden you're delightful about that. It's like it's an overwhelming feeling that consumes you and your perception. So it kind of like streams out, waters your perceptions in a way that now even the thing that you were pissed off about yesterday, you're starting to feel a little more satisfied about. And even if you're not, that's okay. Just go with that general feeling of feeling satisfied and delightful. And so the reason I bring this up is that sometimes we go through an exercise like this and we're like, I can't find anything, but we're so narrowed in on the like things that we're unsatisfied with that we hadn't thought about. The burger that we had the other day that was really tasty and really good. My wife goes to me, well, how did you rate it? She had prepared them, right? She says, I cooked them on the barbecue. She prepared. She goes, what would you rate them on a 1 to 10 scale? 10 being like awesome. I said 10.5. I'm like, these are really good. And I'm like salivating just thinking about them, right? So it's a strong emotion around feeling really satisfied. And it's funny because I didn't really do anything. I just really cooked them and I ate them. but the feeling of satisfaction is there. So you don't, and this is another thing, you don't have to get the feeling of satisfaction from going out and doing something. Like, it doesn't have to be your productive labor that makes you feel satisfied. In the case of my book, it was, but I mean, this was a joy to write. I had a lot of fun writing this book, even creating the original video that goes with the book, right? The key is this, like, if you can associate an image with that feeling of, like I said, a little balloon, and this balloon is really tiny, and you're like searching for thoughts, and you might be searching for 10, 15 minutes, just like, what am I delighted with? What am I delighted with? But then something comes in and it's like, boop. Well, latch onto that. Latch onto that and just be like, what was it about that? And just stay general in the experience, right? Say general in the experience. And then when I added my book, boop, it goes up again. And then all of a sudden, I've got this wave of overwhelming satisfaction that comes my way, right? Well, what happens when you're in a satisfied state? You attract more things to be satisfied about, right? So it's not really about gratitude and appreciation. It's about being in a state of being satisfied and feeling a feeling of delight, okay? And if there's one thing that I can remind you of, and I listened to this through Daryl Anka, he channels a being called Bashar, and he said this last night, which I was watching on Gaia TV, which I thought was brilliant. In the past year, I've become realizing, you know, I play my Super Nintendo, I play these old retro games, and I'm like playing these games. I'm 45, right? So I play these old games because they connect with me and I resonate. They remind me of a time period. There's this nostalgia to it, but more importantly, as I was playing those games, it reminded me of what I heard last night from Bashar, and that is that when you leave this life and you return to the other side of the veil, which is who you really are, this higher self, you're gonna look back and be like, oh, that was a dream. Like, this physical waking reality was a dream. So if it is a dream and you can make it whatever you want, which you can, then I suggest that you get into the practice of feeling that state and getting into that state, that overwhelming feeling of being satisfied and feeling delight. And if you do that, it can dramatically change your life. Thanks for watching and listening. If you want a copy of my book, if you're interested, it's down below in the links. Thanks again for watching and listening. Be a subscriber. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up. If someone could benefit from it, please share it with them. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Awesome. Thanks for watching again. My name's Steve, and I'll talk to you next time.